Hey friends, welcome to the Raising Boys and Girls podcast. I'm Sissy Goff.
And I'm David Thomas.
And I'm Melissa Trevathan.
And we're so glad you joined us for this conversation. Let's dive in.
We are so excited about this episode of the podcast with Erin and Ben Napier. They really don't need any introduction, but if you have been living under a rock and are not familiar with them, Ben Napier is a woodworker and entrepreneur with a degree in history, founder of Scotsman Co. and co-owner of Laurel Mercantile Co. He is a past president of Laurel's Main Street America chapter dedicated to promoting the rebirth of their historic downtown district. Erin Napier is a designer and entrepreneur with a fine arts degree who started her career in corporate graphic design before founding her own international stationery company, Lucky Lux, and is a founding co-owner of Laurel Mercantile Co. 6 days after meeting in college, Erin and Ben decided they would marry and have been inseparable ever since, working side by side in their many ventures. Their passion for small-town revitalization and American craftsmanship is evident in their store, Laurel Mercantile Co., where they design and manufacture heirloom wares and durable goods made exclusively in the United States. They live in Laurel, Mississippi with their daughters, Helen and May, where they restore homes on HGTV's Hometown. We are so excited for you to listen in on this story as they talk about a new venture that we are particularly passionate about at Raising Boys and Girls.
You two, we are so excited to have you on the podcast. You all are beloved by so many folks, including us. You are referred to as hometown heroes for your work, which includes the #1 show on HGTV, Hometown, which is spun off into multiple shows, including your acting debut in A Christmas Open House.
Oh, gosh.
You are the co-owners of 3 stores, have written 3 books, are designers, entrepreneurs, artists, and a woodworker. I feel sure I've forgotten something. And even more important than that, which is obvious in all that you do, is your family. So will you start off there just by telling us the story really of how the two of you met and married, which we understand was quick. We're excited to hear this story. And about your girls.
Well, we did meet and fall in love, and I asked her to marry me very quickly. That took 6 days when we were in college.
I had a crush on him for like a year and a half before that week, though. So
There was some familiarity beyond 6
it was
days.
a small campus.
we didn't know each other per se.
No, we were orbiting each other, and then, but her dad's rule was you can't get married until you both have a college degree of some kind, which was a good rule. And
We're both enjoying a sinus infection right now, so we
Yeah.
sound
Oh,
terrible. I'm
sorry,
so
y'all.
sorry.
no, it's all right. It's just some heavy congestion. It's all right. So we met, fall in love. I want to marry you one day. I want to marry you too, and then. We got married actually in 2008. And
So we met December 2004, so it was really kind of like three and a half years.
Yeah, 4 years until we got married.
Yeah.
I proposed 3 years into the relationship, and then 4 years we got married, and
We were married for about 10 years, and then Helen came.
and then Helen came, and
Now we have May. She's going to be 3 in May. So we have 2 little girls. And
it was one of those things like, being in the South, kids are the thing, but Erin launched a business right after we got married. And we were having so much fun together that neither one, I was never putting any kind of pressure. I was like, if it's just the 2 of us, I'm totally fine with that. And then Erin, one day, it was Mother's Day, 2017, 16, 17,
17. No,
16.
16.
She decided that,
You know, the church service on Mother's Day, a lot of churches, they ask all the women, not mothers, but all the women to stand up.
because you're a mother in some way.
Yeah, women, you may become a mother one day. Anyway, and the little children bring roses to all the women in the church. And I stood there and I was the only one who wasn't a mother. And it felt I just wanted to be a mother. And I decided right then, like,
you were ready.
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
And then with Helen, it was the same deal. It's like, this is enough. This is great. Our family feels great. And then,
my grandmother passed away.
Yeah. And we were
in 2020
at the funeral, and her two sons, Erin's dad and her uncle, have nothing in common. They are like, other than their love of Conway Twitty, they are
and Mama
and their mother. They had nothing in common, but at that moment, they had each other to stand there with, because their father passed away a long time ago, and they were at their mom's funeral, and they had each other.
And I watched the way, they don't have a lot in common, but they love each other. And
Absolutely,
yes.
And they were there for each other in that moment. And I thought, when it's Helen,
we didn't want her to stand there alone.
Who would be with her? And that's when I thought, I want her to have a sibling. And then she got a baby sister. So,
and they are obsessed with each other.
Yes. They fight.
Aww.
They fight a lot. But they also make up songs about each other. They gave each other nicknames. Rosie and Darlin are apparently.
We don't know where they came from.
Rosie and Darlin. That's so good.
And every night, Helen made up a song around Christmas time called Gingerbread May. And she's, instead of man, and she sings it to her at bedtime every night. And it's about how sweet May is. She's as sweet as a gingerbread cookie. So it's just the joy of our life. And it's our number one priority, is being mama and daddy, the best mama and daddy we can be. So we say no to a whole lot. The only things we say yes to are group endeavors. All of our 4 best friends are part of all of our companies with us, and they really handle the logistics and human resources side of those things. So we get to do the marketing of it, which is fun, but mostly we get to be on TV from 8 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, but then we're mama and daddy every single minute that we're not in front of a camera. So that's what we're doing.
Well, it is obvious that that's your heart and passion in all of your work. And we would love to talk about the work stuff a little too. We'll come back to family for sure. But will you just talk about how y'all got started doing what you're doing?
Doing our own house, and we were poor.
Well, yeah, when we came, when we finished school and moved back to Laurel, Erin had grown up in Laurel, but it was very different than the way it was when her parents were growing up or when her grandmother was growing up.
It was booming then.
Yeah, when her grandmother was coming up, like there are these photos of, like, it looks like, it could be the corner of a street in Manhattan, but it's downtown Laurel, and there's, so much foot traffic and people and soldiers who are on leave, and they wanted to come to the city, and it's just this really cool thing. And then when Erin's parents were growing up, that's when, like, the urban sprawl was starting to happen. Downtown wasn't cool, but they're developing this area over here, and that's really cool. And then when Erin was coming up, it was
dead.
The whole town was just nothing.
And I couldn't wait to leave. Could not wait to leave Laurel, and I'll never live here. I mean, it's dead. But instead, we went to Ole Miss, lived in Oxford, which is the greatest small town in America, I think. Just thriving in every way, wonderful because of its smallness, its uniqueness.
But then it, has this influx of, culture and everything every year, which is the students that come in.
And art and literature is so huge in Oxford. But anyway, it just kind of inspired us, like, why can't Laurel be as healthy and thriving as Oxford? What's stopping it from doing that?
We knew it would be different because, Laurel is a very blue collar town. There's factories and industry, and
not a college.
It's not a college town. It's not really a farming community. There is farming, but that's not the money. It's the industry. And so, but there is an arts community here. And, so it was this.
One of the greatest art museums in the South is in Laurel.
Yeah.
People come from as far as New Zealand and Japan to see the Lauren Rogers Museum of Art. And
I had no idea.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
It's great.
We have,
awesome.
You Google it.
It's worth a Google.
Will you say the name again so we can Google it?
Yes, the Lauren Rogers Museum of Art.
Okay.
And
it was a gift, as an endowment. It was a gift from one of the founding families. Their son, Lauren Rogers, passed away, and they built it in his honor. And So it's this amazing little town that had was kind of being forgotten. It was kind of had quit, had kind of become jaded with itself. Like, Erin growing up here, she was sick of it. She didn't like it.
But architecturally, the residential areas were so beautiful.
Rich
with beautiful architecture, houses that have been in families for many generations, still being cared for, still being loved. And when we were ready to buy a house, the house I had been in love with since I was a little girl, literally in 7th grade, I drew a picture of this house because I loved it so much. We realized the woman that lived there was a widow who went to our church. We had no idea that was her house. And we just casually mentioned how much I have loved that house since I was a little girl. And she's like, I'd like y'all to buy it. Would you buy my house?
And
wow.
it was a great price.
And it was just me and Ben. We didn't have any kids. And we thought, this is too much for us. Is a 2,200 square foot house too big for us? And we bought it because you'll never get that chance again to own your dream house. And it was $145,000. And it just
it didn't need renovating, but
it was in beautiful condition.
Yeah.
Miss Marilyn loved that house.
So we
just updated it slowly over 10 years.
Yeah. And, when things would break or when things needed fixing, I would fix them.
And if I wanted, I owned a business and did wedding stationery. Ben was a youth minister, but he had started woodworking at Ole Miss in the art department when he would come visit me. And so he was dabbling and it was fun to him. So if I would fall in love with a beautiful antique that we could not afford, like an armoire that I really wanted, it was like $5,000. We absolutely couldn't afford that. So I took photos of it from every angle in the antique store. I measured it and everything I could think of. And I said, do you think you could just build that for me? And he did. And then he built us a dinner table and it became more than a hobby.
Yeah. And then I started building stuff for other people. And, we had renovated a couple properties at that point, and and I was building more and more furniture. And
I wrote a journal about all this every day.
And this producer from HGTV saw it and reached out and said, I'm in love with your town and I'm in love with,
the way you guys work and you try to be thrifty. And
would you be interested in TV? Or she said, have you ever thought about doing TV? Which for someone from a small town like Laurel, it's like, no, you don't.
No.
Unless you're talking about the local news station, you don't think about doing TV. And so,
and then they said, let's just do a sizzle, which is where they make like a little preview trailer.
Kind of an intro to who these
And we're like, oh, okay, whatever. And then they're like, well, the network really loved it and they want to make a pilot. But, the chances of it becoming a show are so marginal. It probably won't happen. So just have fun. If you want to make one little TV show, it'd be fun to have, for posterity, I guess. And we did it not thinking it would become anything at all. And then they ordered season 1 and they just keep ordering seasons.
Yeah.
So here we are.
So here we are still thinking
that's so
like,
fun.
I guess they could cancel it at any moment, but
they're going to wise up at any moment and realize we don't know what we're doing. And
we're just messing around and having fun.
What
That's
an
so cool.
incredible story. You all,
Yeah.
thanks for telling that. And even as you were, I was thinking, in everything the two of you do, your love of beauty, creativity, story, and community shine through. And what do the two of you hope not only the world, but your girls will gain from the work you're doing?
So that's one thing. When the owner of the production company that makes our show, her name's Kit Redmond. We love Kit. She is an actual grandmother now, but she's
her mother's age and so wise.
And she's been in this industry for a long time, she was in front of the camera and then she owned a production company and her husband was in it. Now her kids are in it. And when our first meeting with her, she said, why do you want to do this show? And we said, well, we don't have kids yet, but we might one day. And we want them to grow up in a place that they'll be proud of. And
that they won't want to leave.
Yeah. And at the time that felt very like hokey, cheesy, sappy. But it was true. It was like, we live here and we want to be proud of this place. And who knows, maybe we'll have kids one day. We know our friends are going to have kids and we want them to love this place. And now that we do have kids and we see them growing up and, I'm never going to allow them to leave.
We're
Right.
going to stay here forever.
There you go.
I don't want to force them to stay. I want them to want to stay.
Yes.
Yes.
And I
It's
want them to
beautiful.
want to be a part of making things healthy and beautiful wherever they are.
Yeah.
So if they're going to live here, I want them
It's-
to want to contribute. My grandfather was a supervisor for most of his career here in Jones County. And then my uncle, my dad's brother that we talked about, he was one of the pioneers of we've got to save downtown. And he bought like half of downtown before anyone cared about it. And he renovated all these buildings and he was just ahead of the curve. People weren't ready yet. They weren't there, but it's just kind of in my blood, I think, to care about what happens to Laurel and that it always is a great place to live. That's And for Ben, he was a Methodist preacher's kid, so he moved every 4 years. I think he always has kind of craved having roots somewhere.
Yeah, Methodist preachers' kids either they said they go one way that they either can never settle
You're a rolling
because
stone.
they've moved their whole life, or they really put down roots. And so far with me and my brothers,
You're all rooted.
Yeah, we're all pretty rooted. But
Wow.
that's kind of our approach to parenting is we want like these things to be.
I don't want to make you do something. I want you to
learn
want
about
to.
it and want to. And that was, the thing with my parents was, they didn't care what we did. Like my dad's approach to college was you're paying for it, get a degree in whatever you want to get a degree in. I don't care. But get something so you have that as a backup, not like you have to choose a path. You got to pick it today and that's what you're going to do and yada, yada, yada. It was very, fluid of like, whatever you want to do, but do something. But it's so like with earlier, I was saying that Erin had to pull me off of the tractor. Our approach we've built this beautiful garden at the farm and, because I want it to be this thing that the girls enjoy doing. Like for me growing up, gardening, it's
Shucking corn.
it was awful. Like we're going to wake up
Please.
at the crack of dawn on Saturday. We're going to go to this farmer's house who goes to our church because he's already picked his peas for the season and he's going to let us glean what's left. So we're going to work out here all day. Your pants are going to get wet from the dew and then you're going to get sweaty from the sun and it's just going to be awful. And you're going to pick peas all day and then we're going to go home and we're going to shell them and we're going to like blanch them.
Your fingers fall off.
And you're just,
y'all.
it was awful. We never had a garden at home growing up. It was, we would go to these preachers' house. I mean, these people from our church's houses. And so I hated it. I hated fishing because you had to go and you had to sit and be quiet while, so you didn't scare the fish away, which I just found out is total BS. Them fish they're not afraid of you. And so
funny.
Your grandparents wanted some quiet.
yeah, everybody wanted some silence. And so it's our approach to parenting is showing them as many things that we know are good for them and showing it to them in a beautiful way so that they will want to do that. So like when it comes to gardening, when it comes to being handy, working on cars, working on the house, working on, exercise. We built a simple home gym that is beautiful. I guess
It's in a barn.
it's in a barn and it's
This is not a fancy gym.
no, and it's but I made it as pretty as I could so that the girls would want to come out there and they would want to see me exercising and so it's
That's the parenting approach we're trying. We'll see if it takes.
Yes.
these are
Yes.
things that we know are good for you, eating fresh vegetables, exercising, walking. Now how do we make it seem pleasant?
Yeah.
We talk so much about how kids learn more from observation than information.
Mhm.
And does look like that's what y'all are you're not only modeling it for them, but you're inviting them into it in this really beautiful way rather than commanding that they join you.
We're taking the next step and going with participation. It's better than information. When we left them, we left them with their sitter out in the garden. They both had on their big garden hats and were watering everything that is out there in the garden. I mean, they had been doing it for about an hour and were just as happy as they could be.
When I left after Erin.
The key is letting them be barefoot and wallow in mud. If you'll let them do that, they love gardening.
They'll do anything. Yes. That is a beautiful picture. I could see it. Well, speaking of all that, it is hard to imagine how y'all balance all the things you're doing because there are so many different aspects of things. And in several interviews, y'all have talked about the importance of finding a family rhythm, which we love, taking breaks from the spotlight, and what y'all mentioned before, saying no so you can best time as a family. What does that look like? And how would you encourage other working parents who have big dreams?
You saying no is not just saying no to opportunities, or things.
But saying no to things that you love that are really good.
Yeah.
Do you want to be on this Sunday school committee at church? It's like,
yeah, that's important.
Yes, and it's important. But in this season of life right now, my plate is as full as I can manage.
Mm-hmm. And
we
which
have to
is
say,
really hard. Like that is. I get it. It is so hard. But then there are things that we can say no to that
are easy.
That are easy to say no. Like, okay, so I have been trying to say no to this more and more and more and more. Because, okay, last week my phone messed up. It would only work sometimes if it was connected to Wi-Fi. And so
you just put it in a cabinet.
I just put it in a cabinet because I knew it would be connected to Wi-Fi there, and I checked it periodically. And you know what? This is important. It is an important part of my work. It's an important tool, but that's what it is. Like, at the end of the day, I would come in and everything that was important that needed to get done, I had gotten it done. It's, saying no to that, saying no to
disconnecting is the hardest no.
That is the hardest no for us.
It's so true.
Because like you said, we own 3 stores. We own a factory.
Decisions have to be made constantly.
And we're the tastemakers behind all of this. We don't run everything, but everything.
They need our approval.
They need our approval on a lot of things. And, but like if we're answering emails on our phone or something, Helen and May will say no phones at the table. And it's, May's 2. And Helen's 6.
Wow.
And sometimes Helen will get up and take it away from me and go put it in the cabinet. And that's great.
Well, last night what Helen said is, I don't like it when y'all have your phones. And I said, I hate when I have our phones. Will you please let us know every single time you see us use our phones? Will you say, put that phone down? Will you help us, Helen? And she said, yes, I will. And I know that y'all have to text people and talk to people about work things, but they need to understand you have kids. And I was like,
wow,
you're right.
Good for her.
Good for her.
You are right.
But then there are things, I mean, we say no to opportunities that are financial, like they would benefit our family financially. But a long time ago, we learned from someone else in the industry they said, when you say yes to that, you might be saying no to something even better. Because in our industry, you sign if you sign a deal, we work with some companies that we have to sign a contract that says you will not work with these companies that they offer. And a lot of times for us, that's the deterrent because we'll look down that list and it's like, well, shoot, what if that company offers? And we love that company and this company we like. Don't get me wrong. We really like them. Would love to work with them, but wouldn't that be better? And, but then what if they don't come? And then it's the bird in the pen is worth 2 in the bush thing. And it's like, but how much do we need? Like how? We
don't need a lot. We live in Mississippi, the cost of living is low here. Maybe that's why it's easier to say no. We don't live in LA. We don't live in Toronto. Right. We can say no. We have enough.
Yeah.
We're very blessed because we have
Yeah.
enough.
Sissy, we just finished recording 2 amazing podcast interviews with extraordinary women who also both recently gave birth to a 3rd or 4th child.
While making great music, running beloved businesses, traveling, touring, podcasting, all while balancing a family.
I need a nap just hearing you describe all that.
I promise you, they both need a nap.
You know what else new moms might need?
Free babysitting,
Yes, but guess again.
a trip to the beach.
I wish I could give every one of them that gift.
We can't do that, but we can tell them more about one of our incredible sponsors, Needed.
I love Needed because they're providing more than amazing products. They are advocating for better maternal and infant health outcomes and doing groundbreaking women's health research through their clinical research arm, Needed Labs.
Pregnancy and postpartum are some of the most nutritionally demanding times in a woman's life. And a mom and her baby's health now and for years to come is influenced by her nutrient status.
95% of women in the perinatal stages have nutrient deficiencies. Most prenatal vitamins include bare minimum nutrition. Based on outdated guidance and stale research, Needed offers radically better nutrition products, education, and advocacy rooted in clinical research and practitioner validation.
There are so many women's health prenatal supplements out there, it can be hard to know what's truly the best option. Needed is recommended and used by more than 4,000 women's health experts, from nutritionists to midwives, functional medicine doctors, and OBGYNs.
Needed offers radically better nutrition for women from conception to pregnancy to new motherhood and beyond. There is so much on the journey to motherhood that you can't control, but nutrition is a big one that you can.
Needed's Prenatal Multi is available in capsules and an easy-to-take vanilla powder that's perfect for nauseous moms or those with pill fatigue.
Needed offers premium supplements for every stage, from egg quality support for women trying to conceive to a lactation support plan for breastfeeding moms to stress and sleep support that supports all women, including those in perimenopause and menopause.
Hallelujah for that. Head over to thisisneeded.com and use code RBG for 20% off your first order. That's THISISNEEDED.com and use code RBG for 20% off your first order. David, I've never seen you wear an apron on the podcast.
I'm auditioning to be on Top Chef.
You are?
Ever since Our Place shipped us the amazing cookware, I have been hanging out more in the kitchen. I cannot tell you how many things I've cooked.
I love Our Place. I have their pieces at my house and the lake.
I cooked in the Always Pan 2.0 this morning.
I love their colors.
Mine is sage.
I have the Always Pan in jar.
What have you made?
A better question is, what have I not made? I even have the Wonder Oven. We made little pizzas in it at the lake. David, did you know that most cookware and appliances are made with forever chemicals? I've officially swapped out toxic kitchenware and appliances for Our Place's non-toxic, healthy, sustainable choices.
Our Place is healthy and PFAS free. Sometimes I have to PFAS on road trips, but I digress.
Our Place is a mission-driven and female-founded brand that makes beautiful kitchen products that are healthy and sustainable.
Connie leaves them out on the stove all the time like decorations.
So do I. Most cookware brands continue to use these chemicals due to their low cost. Leading the change, Our Place has always been PFAS-free and offers the most durable, toxin-free ceramic coatings, ensuring a healthy, safe cooking experience.
In addition to cookware, PFAS are also frequently used in appliances, especially air fryers, pressure cookers, crock pots, and even the rim of blenders. That's why Our Place came out with non-toxic appliances that are changing the game.
And did we mention they're beautifully designed in beautiful colors that feel like art objects that elevate any home and that make you feel creative in the kitchen? Find out why Our Place has 75,000 five-star reviews on their award-winning products, and they've been mentioned in the New York Times, Bon Appetit, and more.
That's why you see our place in everyone's kitchen, from Selena Gomez to David Beckham.
And David Thomas. Upgrade to our place today and say goodbye to forever chemicals in your kitchen.
Go to FromOurPlace.com and enter our code RBG at checkout to receive 10% off site-wide.
That's FromOurPlace.com, code RBG. Our Place offers a 100-day trial with free shipping and returns. And even hearing the two of you talk about that is a great transition into another question we are excited to ask you. We love the work you're doing at Osprey. And first of all, will you even talk about what those letters stand for, and then talk a little bit about how it came to be?
This was me. This was my one contribution.
His proudest contribution.
Okay. Well, so Osprey, the idea there, what we were talking with friends about, our approach to it was from the very beginning.
And very informal, just us and not one single friend of ours. None of our friends
wanted like
our kids to have smartphones.
And so the idea was like
when they get older,
well,
not right now, obviously.
Yeah, but as they age, they'll reach a point where yes, this is an important tool and they need to use it. But
hold on, but because of our age, I think we are the generation where we saw
right.
We didn't get social media or smartphones until we were much older,
and it was different. Like
it was an innocent thing when
social media, when it first started, it was, basically like email, but a little bit more advanced.
And I really think that's why millennials who are our age are going to be the ones who can maybe turn the tide. We see how dangerous it is. It's as dangerous to us, we think, as cigarettes. It's like letting...
Or as driving. That's
driving. Like you can drive a car when you're old enough.
Helen has Helen and May both have these little, electric Jeeps, 24-volt Jeeps. And
little power wheels.
They do great driving around the field with it and all that. But, stay out of their way. They'll run over you. And if I put them in a vehicle that they could reach, an automobile on the road, that they could access the pedals and make it go, it would be disastrous. It's just not right. And so we as a country have set up these laws, and it's, not until this age. And is that a perfect system? Absolutely not. I have a nephew who is 10 years old.
Better driver than me.
If I got in a bind and I was with him, I would be like, let's say that I'm out working and I cut a tree down that falls on my legs and I don't have legs anymore and I got to get to the hospital. I would say, Preston, go get my truck. Come pick me up. We're going to the hospital. And I would trust him in that emergency scenario. Now, am I going to put him in my, classic pickup and say, hey, drive to Hattiesburg? Absolutely not. But is it a perfect system? No, it's not. Nothing is.
But right now, there are no safeguards.
Right now, there's nothing.
Kids.
Nothing. Like, we know kids who are our daughter, who are Helen's age, who have full access to everything on the internet and on social media. And that is terrifying to us. And so the approach when we had kids, like Erin said, it was totally informal. It was a group of our friends. We were like, okay, we're not going to do this. Are y'all going to do this? No, we're not going to do this.
No way. I would ever do this.
And so it was like, okay, we're in this
And then all of our
together.
Kids have each other. They can't say, but I'm the only one who doesn't have a phone. They know they're not. Literally every friend of theirs, every
all
cousin.
All of your close friends, all
everyone you know is like you. You're not expecting to get a phone until you're 16 years old, and it's going to have text and call.
And so the timing of this, we were working, through, we've now got kids who are reaching double digits, and they are starting to do extracurricular activities within the school.
When we were 10 years old, we could make a phone call.
Yeah, I can remember there was a payphone right outside the school office. And if you needed to, you could drop a quarter in and call your mom, and she could, come and get you or bring you something or whatever. Or you could go to the office and say, hey, I left this at home. I need to call my mom. And you can still do that.
We got to give them some agency.
But let's say when I played sports, a lot of times we get out of practice at 4:00 and nobody's at the school anymore. They're already gone, and I need to call my mom. And, I would go to the payphone and I would call my mom. I can remember doing that. And because I remember it specifically because I called collect one time and they charged a fortune for it. And my dad was furious with me because I called collect. Why didn't you have a quarter on you? You need to always have money on you. I'm like, no, I'm 16. I don't know. Anyway, so, this is the timing of this is we were starting to like bounce ideas off of each other. Like, what are you going to do? Like she's playing sports.
So then the key here is making group decisions about tech together. So the 10-year-olds are getting watches that can call mom, dad, grandma, maybe your best friend. And that's all that watch can do. And that's what we've decided as a group of parents.
For now. And that's the thing is, so with Osprey, we had a friend call us, whose kids are older. And their daughter she's in junior high, and their son, boys are kind of different. They don't care. Like,
Right.
I can't talk to my friend. Okay, I'm going to jump on my bike and ride over there. Great. But with girls, it's a little more
left out.
Exactly. Which is something that I did not understand growing up. I had 3 brothers and
new to girl world. And now he's all up in it.
All right.
But her daughter's in 8th grade, and she was like, Erin, she's the only one. None of her friends will come spend the night because we are the house without phones. And they
had a sleepover, and all the kids these girls came over. It's a small school, and they made them, hey, girl, we're not going to have stuff. They were all on their cell phones. And so she took their cell phones away.
Pictures on TikTok and Snapchat. And
that wrapped it up. They won't come over to their house anymore because they can't have their phones.
And she said, if there's anything you can do now before they get there to that problem age, do it.
And so that's how that was the impetus or the birth of Osprey. Now, to the important part, what is Osprey? What does it stand for?
Tell us, Ben.
We had our first meeting planning, and I was like, y'all, we need an acronym, like DARE.
Mad.
We need something that stands for something.
And it needs to be old school. Like in the 90s, everything was an acronym.
And so I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I came up with it. It was a moment of genius, but Osprey is old school parents raising engaged youth. And because our parents, they didn't have a choice. Like, they raised us the way they raised us because it was the way you did it in the 80s and 90s. And, but we are making the effort to raise our girls the way that we are, a variation of the way.
You come to our house. It's about 1989 at our house.
Yeah.
All the time.
That's awesome.
From the vehicles to the technology.
Yeah.
Great.
So old school parents raising an engaged youth. And then I went even further with it because I said, we can, you clip their wings when they're young so that they can soar higher when they're older. And then when they're mature. And then I said, you have to build your nest. You have to build your nest. And so that's how all the terminology came to be.
And your nest is like us, our group of friends, all of our kids, they're a nest. So they'll have each other. The oldest ones are setting, what are they? The pacemaker for the younger ones.
Mm-hmm.
The 10-year-olds with their watches right now, they're going to get flip phones when they start driving. Ooh, it's going to be all.
Yeah. And it's, we're wanting them to have all of the thing about like the not having this is actually giving them freedom. Like they're not.
Our kids are really pretty unsupervised.
Yes.
And that scares my mom and dad who let us be totally unsupervised.
We used to get on a bike and like, I know like everybody, there's tons of stories like this on social media. And I've told this story to Erin and I thought that like my parents were terrible for not, but then like I'm looking at social media like, oh, everybody's parents were doing this. And my brothers and we would get on our bikes and ride. Like recently I went back to the town I lived in as a kid and I drove it and we'd be like 10 miles to another town. And like, I don't want my girls doing that. But also, like, I do want them to go out and, learn, play in trees and build forts and pick flowers. And
Yes.
I mean, they are barefoot. They're outside most of the day, if weather allows, and even when it doesn't, sometimes they'll just play out in the rain.
so when I left, we had been in the garden, and when I left, we have a garden wagon, and it's got big, rubber tires on it. And when I was leaving, I could see Helen had her hat on, May had her hat on, May was sitting in the wagon, and Helen was dragging her to the pond. And part of me was like, I don't want them to go down there and get in the pond.
But they know not to, because they've been doing this since they were little.
Exactly. So it was like, they'll be fine. And Mimi, our nanny, was, she was like 100 yards behind them, but she was walking in that direction. And if something happened, they would be okay. She's there. The neighbors are also across the pond. So I don't know. Like that's the approach that we're using Osprey for.
Yeah. We're very in sync with 1,000 Hours Outside, another organization that.
Yes, we love them. We
just
have been on their podcast recently. Yes, they're wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we're talking so much in our therapy about anxiety in kids, and that kind of independence offsets anxiety so much.
I've read that. I've heard that.
Yes.
I hope so.
Our first panel, like when we launched, we had Adriana Stacy there, and there was so much that I didn't know even before that. I just knew that I didn't want my girls to be attached to this. And she was telling these stories about how she has become a child psychologist who is an expert in screen addiction, which is something she said, that didn't exist when I started school. This is not what I wanted to do. And now it is 100% my business.
Around 2011, her business just started changing, and it was terrifying, honestly.
Yeah.
The things that she's telling us, kids as young as 8 and 9 years old who are talking about suicide. First of all, things they learned from social media, but then also because they feel like they don't fit in, because they're being left out. It's the scariest thing I can think of. It's so scary.
That's the thing, is we're talking to you right now. You're in Nashville. This is an amazing
time to be alive.
Right.
But it's also uncharted territory that is ever changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, big picture, I sure am getting a sense of it, but what would y'all say you hope families, what would you hope the movement accomplishes and families gain from it?
Our biggest goal is to be obsolete in a few years.
Oh,
that's our
so
biggest
good.
goal.
For this to
be obvious.
Work yourselves out of a job.
Exactly. That is the goal for Osprey.
That's great.
But at the same time, it's this is the part that we are struggling the most with, is that it is as grassroots as it gets. We are giving you ideas, but there is no
there's a literal guidebook that tells you how we have done this. And it's literally just at your kid's school.
Reach out to everybody.
Reach out and say, hey, who's going to do this with us? And then you form a really strong, tight-knit group of kids and hopefully make it grow. Make it grow to be the biggest nest it can possibly be. Because the more that are a part of it, obviously, the better. Your kids' chances of having community, and
it's
all about making sure no child has to say, but I'm the only one.
Right.
I'm the only one.
Oh, it's so good.
Well, and then back to the acronym. I know that
it all sounds anti. We don't want it to be about.
Oh, no. We're we have a career because of social media. And we get that. We get the irony.
But we also have a career because we do things with our hands. Right. We make things. We build things. I went to art school. He's a woodworker. The greatest satisfaction you can have in your life is if you learn how to do something. Yes. If you have skills that are not connected to technology or a phone, but that's how you build confidence. And we see the handful of kids we know who are coming out of high school, whose parents had the good sense to say, you're not going to have a smartphone, you're not going to have social media. those are the kids we snatch up as fast as we can to hire for our companies because they're able to have conversations. They can use their actual voice to speak to people. And this is crazy that this is even something we're having to really work hard to find, but young people are struggling. They are really struggling to know how to communicate, how to handle conflict, how to just talk to each other and to people. And we want to make sure our girls have self-assurance. And I think that comes from being very good at something and enjoying it and being good at communicating.
Helen is her mother. She's very shy. She's very
I would say she's introverted.
she's
more than
very
she's
introverted.
shy.
Yeah, she's not really shy, but she is very introverted. And if she goes to a get together, a party of some kind, she gets really nervous because she wants to fit in with the other girls. I understand. Like that's, everybody's like that except for me. And
Never cared.
or I just never gave anyone the opportunity to not like me. They just, I'm here. And, but it's amazing to watch her. She does ballet and she's really good. Like, I'm not just saying like, oh, my daughter's a great dancer and blah, blah, blah. She's very good.
Naturally graceful. Like when she falls down, she looks like she's doing ballet.
Yeah. And I don't know that May is going to be as good at ballet.
She's more Ben.
She's more me.
She's here for a good time, man.
Yeah. But she, she has her things that we're already starting to see like, oh, we need to introduce her to this. She may like this. And, but Helen, like there was recently, they were at a party and it was mostly older girls there, older than her. And she was so nervous and so just like locked up and, something about ballet came up and, she said, oh, this is from the Nutcracker or this is from something. And they were like, what is that? And she said, oh, it's a ballet. And she started doing ballet and the older girls suddenly were like, can you show us how to do that thing? And she lit up in a way that
her confidence was just through the roof. And then she wasn't nervous anymore.
Right.
She felt like she had something.
And it was because of this thing that she had learned to do in the real world. Not, on her phone, not a trend that she had seen on a tab that, that they could judge her and say, oh, that's not the way it works. It's, because they didn't know, they didn't do ballet.
And then she started a game and she said, okay, we're all going to do our own dance for 10 seconds. We count to 10 and you do your own dance. And that
became the game.
And the big girls did it.
Good.
It was really big for her confidence. Really, really
go,
big.
Helen, go.
It's beautiful.
So fun.
Sissy, I was wondering what time auditions for the band were happening.
What band are you talking about?
The boy band your nephews are forming.
Oh, did you see all the instruments at my house?
I did, and I am hopeful I can get an audition.
Well, I'll mention that to the lead singer. Did you notice the xylophone on display?
I did.
I built that with the boys thanks to our friends at KiwiCo.
How much do we love KiwiCo?
It is one of our favorites.
Whether you're staying home or heading out on summer explorations, KiwiCo is inviting kids and kids at heart to enjoy their first ever summer adventure series.
Kids from 2-year-olds to teens can receive 6 hands-on science and art project kits over 6 weeks with enriching content and fun activities to accompany each project.
Every time I go to your house, I see a new KiwiCo project you've been working on with the boys.
It's one of our favorite things to do. Henry and I are counting down the days until the fort builder set we ordered from KiwiCo arrives in the mail. It can be hard to find creative ways to keep kids busy and challenged. KiwiCo does the legwork for you, so you can spend quality time tackling projects together. There's something for kids of all ages.
KiwiCo encourages kids to get outside, explore, and stay off their screens. Awesome projects from the Summer Adventure Series, like the Bottle Rocket Kit, where kids can build an actual bottle rocket, help to turn the outdoors into a playground of learning and fun.
Build the best summer ever with KiwiCo. Get 20% off on your summer adventure series at kiwico.com/RBG summer.
That's 20% off your summer adventure series at kiwico.com/RBG summer. Will you both, as you're sharing even that piece of it, will you talk a little bit about the old school festival you are hosting in Mississippi?
Yes, it's just a few weeks away. And I've never put on an event like this before. It's a lot of moving parts.
She's
I'm a little stressed out. I'm not sleeping good for thinking of all the details we've got to cover. But we're going to have expert presentations again from Dr. Adriana Stacy, the screen addictions expert that we spoke about. Our friend David Polson, he's a Secret Service agent, but his specialty is cyber crimes.
yeah.
And the things that he knows.
Like Adriana, she tells the side of it that we're seeing.
The medical and the dopamine, the science behind why dopamine makes it impossible for children to not be addicted. It's not their fault. It's impossible if you give them access. And then David,
like Erin and I are the sweet, fun, like we want to raise our girls a certain way, and you don't have to, and that's totally fine. But this is how we're doing it, and we're on TV. Woo! And then David is we refer to him as the black lung. Like used to, they would go around like talking about cigarettes and how bad it was for you,
and then they'd roll that black lung out
bring
there.
in a lung. That this is what a lung that's been smoking,
and then you will never smoke for your whole life. David gives this one
it's this one analogy where it's just a one-liner. He says, would you let a stranger come into your house?
It's 8 p.m.
An adult stranger walk into your house and then
go to your child's room
and shut the door and lock it. And it's like, oh God, absolutely not. And he says, that's what you're doing
when you hand them a phone.
Wow.
Is you're locking yourself out of their room and they're in there with adults. And that is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. But that is what he does for a living.
So we've got a little bit of everything, all kinds of angles. But then also,
the cool thing is C-Spire is a Mississippi-based regional cellular provider.
Fiber internet. It's a tech provider.
Yeah, they're a tech provider.
So everyone in Mississippi uses C-Spire.
Yeah,
cell service.
They're an amazing company. They're family owned. They're big. Like that's the thing is like you hear like, oh, it's this small area, but they're huge. Like they're this really big company and they're still family owned. And because of that, they can't it's sort of bad for business for them to be involved in this. But at the same time, because of who owns the company, they see
this is dangerous.
This is dangerous. We need to figure out how we can do both. And so C-Spire's partnered with us on
and they developed Connect and Protect is the name of the plan, and it's specifically for kids and teenagers where you come to C-Spire and they are going to walk you through the best low-tech options for your kids. Things like watches that'll just call mom and flip phones. And then, when it's high school graduation, then we can talk about an iPhone.
Yeah. And then it's a gradual thing. The thing with Connect and Protect is the parents, they can select, I only want them to be able to call us, their grandparents, and, their godparents. And then, as they get older, I only want them I want to add these numbers to their plan of people they can call. And then, because Erin tells this great story of her first time driving her car. She had made a mix CD. Well, we don't do mix CDs anymore.
We don't have CD
We made playlists, and we have CDs in some of our older vehicles, and we have tapes in some of our older vehicles. And our girls get that, and they like switching the music and selecting the music.
And when they can finally drive, I want them to have that incredible teenage seminal experience where
first summer
this is the first playlist I made and I hit play and I had freedom.
Yes.
And we want them to have that. And so that's the beautiful thing.
And they're 16. Maybe we'll find a way to add just music.
Exactly. With Connect and Protect, you can gradually add things, and then eventually you untether them and they have full access,
when they're ready.
When they're ready. Yeah. And you're ready. And that's the thing is it's by the parents. And so
C-Spire is sponsoring the
Yeah.
festival, and they're going to have a big presence there. I'm also really excited that my friend Lisa is kind of the OG Osprey mom, and
She's our biggest influence on
she
parenting,
is. She's
besides
just,
our own.
she and Doug, her husband, raised 4 amazing kids who didn't get social media until they graduated. And these are the most exceptional, remarkable, well-adjusted, talented, smart, kind, connected kids. They are so close to each other and to their
Popular.
parents. They're popular. And they are going to be speaking at the event also as, you know,
Wow.
we're not weirdos, guys. Your kids are not going to be weirdos. They can be whatever they want to be, and they're going to be a lot healthier mentally.
And then there's workshops.
Workshops. Ben's workshop sold out.
Yeah.
He's teaching kids how to build their own birdhouse, and they'll get to take it
Oh,
home. We're going to have
And
a
then-
gardening workshop with our friend Emily, who is, she
She's
does foodscape. So she
Which is like
teaches
landscaping, but
beautiful
with,
food garden.
edible gardens.
Ooh.
So she's
Um,
going to teach kids how to make a really cool garden project that they get to take home. Adam Trest is going to be teaching kids how to illustrate their own little zine, which is a short book that a child can write their own story and illustrate. And our friend Thomas Steinwander is going to teach kids how to start their own garage band. If you already play an instrument, bring your instrument, and he'll be teaching a workshop on that.
The
So-
funny thing about that is that Thomas,
So
so
cool.
Thomas was, they owned the tea farm in Laurel. We did the cottage on the farm, and they raised tea plants like black tea and hot tea and green tea and white tea. And, but when Thomas moved back, he grew up here, he moved away, started his career.
But in high school, he had a band,
In high school, he had a band.
and they
when-
all moved back home as adults, and they've started the band up
they're all these
again,
dads.
That's so fun.
And they started,
practicing in his
practicing.
attic.
and so the name of their band is the Attic Revival. And they just play like 90s cover songs. But kids don't really do that anymore. Like, I have a nephew who's a musician, and I was like, man, you should like start a garage band. And he's,
I don't know
What is
anybody
that?
that plays music.
and it was like, oh, you
Wow.
get together and you start a band. How do musicians start band? Like, how does this work anymore? And Erin had a garage band when she was a kid, and so that's where we're trying to like introduce, again, just like with our girls, like here are some avenues of creativity.
Let's fill this
Mm.
tech void with a skill or a
Mhm.
hobby
Yes,
that you might
yes.
love your entire life.
Mm.
Mm.
That's great.
This is so cool.
It
Thank
is.
you
Thank you.
so much. I just cannot even tell you how grateful we are for families to be exposed to this and kids to glean from the skills and the confidence and the independence and being connected in the real world and in real time in the
I
ways
hope
that
it-
you're.
I hope it takes.
Okay, so if we were going to back up and go really big picture for a second,
Okay.
what would you all say is the best parenting advice you've ever received?
My dad told me one time that they're not your friends yet,
Hmm,
that they will
that's
be.
good, Ben. Yes.
That is good. My dad has always said every bucket has got to sit on its own bottom. And that is to say, he
You
has
got to figure
always,
things out.
yes, you have to figure things out for yourself.
Mm.
And like, for instance, questions of my brother, he's a doctor of physical therapy, and my dad was the director of rehabilitation and physical therapy at our local hospital for 44 years
He started the
Wow.
department and then was the chair of it
until he retired.
until he
Wow.
retired.
And so when my brother finished physical therapy school, of course, that's where he worked. And after my dad retired, my brother said, I think I want to go out on my own and have a private practice. And my dad, as hard as that is for him he wants to give advice and he has his opinions about that, but
It-
he won't.
He won't
Mm.
because his dad's generation
My
was
grandfather,
very much like, no, this is what you need to do.
you stay stable, you stay at the hospital, you
They
do
were
it
from
until
that
you
war
retire.
generation. And
And my dad always wondered if he could have gone out there and had a private practice. Would his life have been different? would he had more time to spend with us? And so my dad, when Clark went to him about that, he's like,
you got to come up with that on your own. Here are the, he'll listen to you. He'll be a bouncing board, and all that. But in the end, you have to make that decision for yourself.
And you got to live with it and own it.
Yes.
He doesn't ever want to be responsible for the decision you did or didn't make.
And that's like, with our girls, it's, we encourage them to figure things out. How do you want this? Like, when it comes like building with magnetiles, I'll explain like, oh, you're wanting that one to be there, but it keeps falling because there's no support under it. So if we put this one here, hold it. If that's what you're wanting to accomplish, and then you see this light bulb moment of, oh, and now you understand what a load bearing wall is. Like it's so letting them figure that life and let them figure everything out on their own to some extent, while also being, there to catch them a little bit, so that one day they will be our friends, as my dad says. I would say that's I was trying to come up with something from Lisa, and
Lisa. Oh, my friend.
So much.
I'm telling you, y'all need to get her on your podcast. She is a writer and a teacher and a maker. She's a leather worker. She's the one who, with the 4 kids who are all just incredible. I'll connect you. You would love her.
Okay. Love to. Love to.
I'm begging her. Will you just write a book on parenting and just, she says, you got to be paying attention to every spiritual gift your child has. Don't brag on things like, you're very honest, because one day they won't be. And then that's going to mess with them thinking they don't have self-worth if they make a mistake, but more like, I love the way you notice how other people feel about things, like encouraging that.
Which is hard because Helen is extremely honest. Like she will, first thing you get home, like she'll tell you what she did, or she'll come to you and say,
I kicked Sissy today.
Yeah. And I want to be like, that's your best virtue, is that you're so honest. And because I want her to keep being honest. And, but I don't want her to,
Instead, when she's honest about things, even if she did something really bad, like kick Sissy, she doesn't get in trouble for it because she was honest.
Yeah, we say, thank you for being honest.
That's so good.
Let's fix this.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So great. You too. I have been listening to you, and I was thinking back to a few minutes ago when you were talking about filling the void with realness and goodness. I loved hearing you talk about that. And I think, my goodness, you two are filling the world with a lot of realness and goodness. You have certainly filled our conversation with both those things. And we just are so honored and grateful that you said yes to this invitation. And we like to end with something fun and food related. So we move from the substantive to the silly at the end. And we want to ask you a 2-part question, which is queso or guac. And then part 2 is, what's your favorite taco?
Queso.
Okay, I already love the facial expression. That was good.
Queso. I don't do guac.
I like guacamole. But if I have to choose, it's going to be queso. And that might be because I live with 3 girls who don't like guacamole.
Well, I'd like to take it a step further and say what I'd really prefer is a bowl of sour cream beside a bowl of salsa. You dip the chip in the sour cream first, and then you scoop the salsa, and that is really the perfect tortilla chip experience.
And then favorite
That's a great
taco
combo.
I'm gonna go I like a street taco first off with the soft corn tortilla. And I am probably gonna go al pastor.
You're not gonna like my answer.
Erin's going flour tortilla.
Taco Bell.
Ground
beef.
Really?
No lettuce.
No lettuce with
Erin,
cheese.
Wow.
I like a trashy little taco. That's
Erin's appetite, other than Triscuits, is that of a 12-year-old kid. And it's something that I'm proud of her. We're working really hard to not, because what it was is that growing up, her dad would say, like growing up at my house, the biggest thing that you could get in trouble for was disrespecting our mother. Like my father was the enforcer, and If you crossed him, they're all right. If you cross your mama, if you don't do what she says, if you don't eat what she cooks,
You face the wrath
you
of Wayne.
you will face the wrath of John Wayne and Clint Eastwood balled up into one, who's twice as big and twice as strong as them. So growing up,
Wow.
like whatever mama cooks, that's what we ate.
Ben's dad has some James Gandolfini vibes when he's angry.
And so, which Erin has never seen, by the way. It's not
He
like
is such a teddy bear. I think all of this is lies.
no.
I think this is fake news.
Which I mean, I saw Will Ferrell recently talking.
Your dad
about
is as
having
mean
sons.
as Santa Claus.
You-
In the 20 years I have been in this family, he has only shown me Santa vibes.
But it's because he does it. He treats his daughter-in-laws, because he has 4 sons, and so
I believe it's daughters.
daughters-in-law. He treats his sons' wives and his granddaughters all exactly the same. Like, hey, I got some of those special crackers I know you like. When he's talking to Erin, and also when he's talking to Helen, like, hey,
I went to the Sam's Club.
yeah, I got.
And they had some really good looking strawberries I thought you girls would like.
And so
Anyway,
Santa vibes for
exactly.
sure.
So that's like growing up in our house. It was whatever we could, and now like we all are, pretty healthy eaters. Like we'll eat, we'll experiment.
Devil's
We'll
big.
try anything.
I eat salads all the time.
But in Erin's house, it was
I ate a lot of raisin
Erin's
bran.
dad was like, "You're going to eat what we're having for supper," but then. Because he worked so much, he would have to leave and go do his progress notes. And her mom would make her a grilled cheese or a mac and cheese or
A
bowl of
raisin
cereal or a
bran.
Pop-Tart or whatever little Erin wanted.
Anyway, I
So
like
now
kid
we're-
food, but I like grown up food too.
She's learning. And it's because we're wanting. It's the same with fishing. I hated fishing growing up, but then I had a 6-year-old who wanted, or a 4-year-old who wanted to fish. And now I am, a great fisherman. I'm
She caught 9 fish one day.
She fed us one day.
and fed
Wow.
that was the supper that night. Everybody ate it.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
That's cool.
Well, and now you don't have to be quiet when you fish, so it's even better.
Exactly. We can play
That's right.
music. We can
Yep.
talk. It's great.
That's right. Y'all, you delightful. I mean,
Yes.
what a gift you two have been to our time. Thank you so much. We cannot wait for folks to hear this. And I feel like everybody knows, but will you just say where they can find you if they're not already following?
Yes.
Mhm. I'm on Instagram at Erin Napier.
One N.
One N.
ERIN
He
APIER.
At Scotsman.co.
Scotsman.co.
And OspreyKids.com is our nonprofit website. We have lots of resources there, and videos from Dr. Stacy and David Polson are both on our page there on the resources. So
Yeah, you can read about it. And come see us in
Thank you.
Laurel.
yeah,
Yes.
We would love it.
We would love it. Thank y'all.
Thank
We're
you
so
both.
glad to know you. However, we can support you along the way, we would love to.
thanks so
Just
much.
grateful for
y'all.
what
Thank
y'all
you.
are doing. Yep. David, what a team we have that we get to call friends who help make this podcast possible.
Amanda Young, our operations manager,
Chris Starrett, our engineer and producer,
our management team at KCH.
and we are thrilled to be a part of the That Sounds Fun network.
Our music was created by the insanely talented Dave Haywood of Lady A.
And if this podcast felt helpful to you, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, all the things.
We are grateful for you and cheering you on always.